So, one thing that I think we should make clear here for this, like for people listening, is that we have like no skin in the game, right? Like we're not making money off of any sort of political process. We're not campaign managers. We're not involved in any sort of advertising campaigns, right? Like the outcome of the elections does not monetarily impact us. We're just two concerned citizens looking at some things that are becoming more and more frightening that we would like to discuss more publicly.
I mean, it kind of monetarily affects us because Bidenomics with Harris and Biden have not been working for us. So
yes, from a macroeconomical perspective, absolutely, there's a lot to be said.
But there are just direct
you and I are not
of cash.
No. Right, that is not happening. And I only bring this up because if you look at all these like popular political podcasts out there that are on Spotify and YouTube and all these other places, Apple, a lot of the hosts and co-hosts and guests are all directly involved, which is great, right? Like, because that's, you're going to hear, sources that are working directly with these campaigns and with these people that they're talking about. You get this firsthand testimony, which is great. But we have to appreciate, though, that there's an angle. They're spinning a narrative, on purpose, or not, right? Because they at the end of the day, they have to make a livelihood. We are free to just talk about whatever we want, however we want, without any sort of fear of retribution.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
unless
kind of
we get canceled.
That could totally happen. We say the wrong thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So you wanted to talk about Kamala.
I do. I do want to talk about Kamala. She came out of nowhere, just overnight, just appeared.
True.
And I mean, she was vice president, but she had a lower poll rating than Biden did. She was in the high 20s, low 30s, somewhere around there for approval rating. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to see, because like when I see somebody in a position and she's getting terrible ratings, I just, because Biden, when he announced that he was going to pick somebody, he just said, I'm going to pick a black woman, and it just felt identity politics to me. There's a laundry list of candidates, like 5-6 candidates that he was going to choose from for his VP in 2020, 2019. And they settled on Kamala, who did terrible in the presidential election. That cycle. I think she got 0 delegates and was one of the first people to drop out of that race when she was running in 2019.
Something like
so
that,
I just I wanted to know why they picked her, if there was anything there or if it was just, identity politics at work. She's incredibly boring. There's really nothing that she's accomplished at all. And
I mean, she has a list of accomplishments. Let's not go crazy here, right?
Yeah. Okay, you're right. She's done some small things.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a carpenter and you've been a carpenter for 30 years and you've built a cabinet, right? And it's an okay cabinet. Yeah, you've done one thing, couple things. I mean, how's that? How are you getting paid? Why are you getting paid? Why are you there? Why do you exist? She is a lawmaker. She's there to make the people's lives better. And I really don't see a lot of that from her. And the things that I do see, she flip-flops on all of her policies, like almost overnight. It's like whichever way the wind is blowing, she's there. What do you want me to do? I'm here for it.
Right. Okay, so let's I actually have a list of her successes, okay? She was instrumental in passing the American Rescue Plan, right? That was $2 trillion as a part of the COVID-19 relief. She led that initiative. That was her baby. Whether or not the whole COVID-19 thing was exacerbated by policies of the current regime that required such a stimulus, That's another question. That's a whole nother debate that kind of dives into the whole conspiracy of COVID-19, which we should totally do one of these days.
Yeah.
But that was her thing, and so I don't know. Did you get a stimulus check?
Oh yeah. No,
Okay.
I think everybody got a stimulus check, other than my parents.
Did you give it back?
No.
Did you use it?
No.
You didn't use the stimulus check.
No, it's in a bank somewhere.
Okay, so you're making some sort of return. Okay. Right, you benefited from it. So
oh yeah. I'm not saying. Okay, so the way that the stimulus works, right, is they give it to poor people, and the poor people give it to rich people. So the only person who actually benefited from the stimulus is Jeff Bezos, because everybody bought with their $600 something from Amazon, right? So it didn't help us out all that well. It helped Jeff Bezos out really well.
Okay, sure, yes. A lot of that money went right back into the system. Agreed. But you got money thanks to Kamala Harris. Like, right. She literally was like, Mr. Adverhauser, I would like to have you take this check for $600.
Right. And I know what you're saying. But if I had the ability to vote on that specific issue, I would have been like, absolutely not. Right. Because the problems that we're having with the economy, and we're seeing $32 trillion in debt right now. That's pretty astounding. I think you'd have to have like $120,000 per American to pay that off.
Yes.
So the $600, $1,200, whatever we got, wasn't worth the $120,000 that we're supposed to pay back now.
I think,
and I know it wasn't just the stimulus that created this deficit or the debt, right? I'm not suggesting anything otherwise. I'm not, but if I had my way, I would absolutely not have gotten $600 from the government.
But you're okay then. But I know you're not okay, rather, with them printing money and, abusing tax laws on behalf of the wealthy. No. You hate that too, right?
Yeah.
So why shouldn't the poor also benefit from this exact same corruption? Why not start at the top and then just let this one go? Because this was the 600 bones that actually went to your bank account, resulting as a result of financial corruption. But why? Let's go ahead and focus your ire on the billions and trillions of dollars going to the billionaires.
I mean, why can't we just stop all of it? That's where I'm at.
I'm just suggesting that you enjoy some of the corruption. It's out there for the taking. Now you got a little
yeah, but it's like almost insulting though, because like all of these people are getting kickbacks, all these people are getting subsidies, all of this tax incentives for businesses to move to places. Mm-hmm. There's thousands and thousands of jobs created through these systems, so there is some benefit to the common people by creating these things and drawing jobs into places. Idaho is notorious for its cheap labor, drawing in businesses because they can pay their employees way below what they should be making anywhere else. So businesses do get drawn to Idaho because of things like that. But I, for one, would really rather see that at a minimum, from the federal government. I would like to see income tax go away, completely. And if they want to just keep their fictitious, economy moving, they can just keep printing money and just use it like monopoly.
Okay,
pretty much all it is right now.
We are going way off topic here.
I
agree because that is also true. We're keeping the world economy afloat by just printing USD. All right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely happening. It's one of the many reasons why we can all predict a looming war, likely with China, some massive financial power out there that's counter to our own. Anyway, let's not even go down that road.
Sorry.
But so Kamala Harris basically opened the door so everybody can sample the corruption the elite are enjoying with this $2 trillion COVID stimulus. It also, by the way, went into small businesses. How many small businesses were able to stay afloat because of this?
Not enough.
Several, though. That's also as a result of this. So that's one good thing. Net positive, maybe? I would say net positive of this stimulus package coming out. if you were to go 100 to 0, 0 being is the worst thing ever, 100 being the best thing ever. This is bar minimum of 51.
I'd give it like a 39.
A 39. What are you talking about?
Most of the businesses that were saved were things like, De Niro's, Nobu. In Boise, we had something like 400 businesses close their doors. In Boise itself during COVID, and so I don't see, a lot of that money hitting the real small businesses. Not Robert De Niro, who had the lawyers and the, economists or the CPAs to make the money work for him and to take billions of dollars in these kickbacks. So I don't know. For me, government intervention has never really been, the way to save small businesses and mom and pops and the economy. So, pretty much every time they put their finger in the pie, it ruins the pie. So.
Are you pro or anti the breakup of large companies like Amazon and Microsoft and things like that?
Are they breaking up BlackRock?
I mean, okay, we can't talk about BlackRock.
Okay,
that's only because
I'm just saying, if they're doing their jobs properly, I'm all for it. But if they're just squishing one small mom and pop that got a little bit too big, what does it matter?
Capitalism is enabling these mega monopolies to exist. Okay. So our government had the courage to go back in time in Standard Oil and at least attempt to stop that shit from going down. Okay. Today, you see these massive companies like, again, I guess like the big tech companies just gobbling up anybody who's trying to start up. I can't tell you how, if you were to look at it's actually crazy, Zach. If you're very curious, go look at Meta, Google, Microsoft, IBM acquisitions, and then just look at a timeline. And it's basically somebody pops up with a good idea, acquired, and they're just literally just being kind of like, it's like this giant system of whoever has the best bid. That good IP is going to wind up in one of these 4 or 5 big tech companies.
Yeah,
healthy, not healthy. It is certainly the capitalist way. The pure capitalism would allow this to happen until one of these 4 or 5 companies gobbles up the entire industry.
Yeah,
and then we're all Microsoft Blue or Apple or Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No,
so I mean, I don't
disagree with you.
Okay.
The government regulation has its place, right? It is okay to have a little bit of socialism. It is okay to have a little bit of regulation. It is okay to have a little bit of government, just to create a free and fair marketplace. That those things are okay. When it's stifling or ineffective, what's the point? We're just wasting millions, billions of dollars of taxpayer money on middlemen that do absolutely nothing for us. So
yeah, our government's way too big for the record. Like, after everything I just said, I am not advocating for the expansion of our government, for fuck's sakes. Please, no. We have too many laws. Somebody said it. I don't know who it was, but soon everything will be illegal. Yeah. There'll be a law for everything. You can only pick your nose with your right index finger on Sundays. Will be a thing. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. Kamala Harris was instrumental in driving the administration's efforts to secure abortion rights. Obviously, that didn't work out too well, but she did everything she could to kind of fight, the Supreme Court decisions. How do you feel about that? Like, obviously, it did not land well. If you are a pro-choice, so especially if you're a pro-choice female, you should feel directly attacked by the Supreme Court and everything that happened there, right? Kamala did push to do her best to ensure that states didn't just automatically fold into this new ruling.
I'll choose my words carefully here. I think that it's a good thing that there's not just a point blank ban on it. There's no reason for something like that. But it also should be a state's thing, because then the people of the state can vote how they want to vote. I don't like the federal government having control over a lot of laws. I would rather see the states choose and pick how they want their citizens to live. Again, smaller governments, like if counties voted properly, people went out to their local elections and voted properly, we would see much better communities. And, states, same way. Federal government blanketing, anything and saying this is how you'll live it's harder. It's harder to make everybody happy that way. So if you let everybody take care of things from a local level, so long as it's not awful, like racism or like you will keep that baby or you will kill that baby, not, I'm all about freedom. Like if you want to live your life a certain way, you live your life a certain way, and that's the way it should be. So I'm okay with that one on Kamala Harris. I'm okay with that one.
The states' right debate is also touchy, simply because we just got through talking about how daddy government in DC kind of like is way too big, has way too much control, which directly conflicts with the thought of states' rights. People like Charlie Kirk will go out, and I think his position is very, very strong on states' rights. He believes that there's all sorts of states' rights and likes to claim all these things. But at the end of the day, just look at the Supreme Court, right? Yeah. They can pretty much do whatever the hell they want. And then and it will impact every state, kind of like uniquely, forcing them to do what the Supreme Court wants them to do. Anyway, we could go down that road.
Pretty much how the federal government works, and
it's exactly
they are 1/3 of the federal government. So no matter how you shake a stick at it, the president can write an executive law, and that's the law of the land until Congress or the Supreme Court get rid of it.
I wonder, just in general, when I think about states' rights, my immediate thought, okay, just the knee-jerk reaction is, what could possibly be better than a ship with a captain, but a ship with 50 captains?
Well, right? About a fleet of ships, 50 ships with 50 captains, all under the same armada flag.
Right, and that armada is
federal government
by a fleet admiral, right?
So
it's just
they said a small thing on the pirate ship says, hey, you will give a certain amount of money to us so that we can bribe everybody around us to do things that are beneficial to our fleet, and that's a wonderful situation so long as the captains get to run their ships how they want to, because their crews are happier that way.
I don't want to bait you into something here.
Pirate talk.
No. I was contemplating saying a thing and it was going to set you up very unfairly. But let's just look at using the Supreme Court decision to kind of reverse some of those abortion bans, right?
Right.
You're looking at, as a result of that, as a direct result of that, and unique states' rights, right? Women were having to leave one state to go to another state for their abortion care, whatever kind of care they needed, and then would return home to be persecuted. How is that helping the American public?
It doesn't help anybody.
This is fundamental into the kind of the issue of having 50 unique state rules.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that stance, right? If you live in a state that you're not allowed to do the things you want to do, you have to move. If you're too poor to move, it would be a terrible situation to be confined to any one place that you can't live your life the way you want to live it. And, it's not the ideal American way, in my opinion, that you have to be forced down a path that you don't want to be forced down a path. I feel very restricted by that kind of lifestyle. So I'm not a huge fan of it. But again, I'm not a voter in a lot of those states. Idaho has a ban on abortion, so long as it is not life-threatening, anything like that, not rape or incest, I believe. I think those are the 3 exceptions to it. And it doesn't sit well with me to have that law on the books, because if that's the way you want to live your life, that's the way you want to live your life. It doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, but why do I need a law to tell people that they can't do it? Because what you just said, give the people the freedom. And if the person wants the freedom to not have an abortion, with the Supreme Court's ruling, they don't have to have an abortion. There's nobody forcing them to get it. The opposite is true, though.
Right.
With that Supreme Court ban, now people are being told they can't get them because of states interfering with their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I know where you're going with it, right? And just because I'm a proponent of states' rights doesn't mean that I agree or disagree with the ruling, right? It's really hard to. It's really hard to make anybody happy with any kind of situation like this, right?
Let's take out the sting of the conversation. We could do the same thing with marijuana legalization. And the same thing is true there. While the Supreme Court hasn't had a ruling on this yet, like if you're in Washington State, and you have some pot on you, you make your way into Idaho. I don't know if it's legal in Idaho yet. Is it?
No.
Okay.
They actually reversed their decision on that. They
amended
their constitution
right?
so that it'll never be legal without a constitution amendment. So
amazing. Way to go, Idahoans. Okay, so listen, if you're in Washington where it's completely legal to have marijuana and you cross into Idaho, you could be locked up. Or if you're in Idaho, you go into Washington and you get some pot, come back in, same deal.
Yeah, and at that point you're trafficking through state lines, which is federal jurisdiction as well. So I mean,
it's so bad.
Yeah,
it's really messy. It's not helping the American public here. Like I'm not trying to say your state has to legalize it or not.
Right.
But now, like you just said, you actually hit three things. The state can have their way with you for having for breaking their constitution. And the government will, because you use some sort of, interstate to get into Idaho from Washington, and then they're going to have their way with you.
But I will say this thing. I've never gotten why we don't legalize pot. I mean, there's a lot of revenue in it, right?
I mean, there's a reason.
It doesn't really hurt anybody. But the one benefit that I have noticed with Idaho being really backwards in their laws on that is that we don't have homeless encampments here. Not one. Strange.
Okay, first of all,
are we the only state on the West Coast that doesn't have a homeless encampment?
You're not on the West Coast. You're landlocked. Nobody wants to go to Idaho.
Well, when California drops off into the ocean because of some earthquake, which I'm hoping is
Newsom.
soon. Yeah.
Dude, Newsom is actively jackhammering that state off of the West Coast, and they're just going to float off into oblivion. California is such a messed up. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. Kamala Harris. She pushed through the passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, though it was stalled in the Senate. That was her deal, which is, I think we all want more rights for people to vote. And this is just more of like ensuring that there's not sort of like segregation occurring with these votes, to gerrymandering and things like that. Make sure that people's votes are actually represented. What else do we got?
So long as the Republicans aren't gerrymandering, it's okay if the Democrats do it though. So
no, dude, you should like you're yes and no. As a Democrat, I can't stand it. I can't stand gerrymandering. I don't know how this is possibly legal. Like how? Yeah. Who is looking at this? I don't care what political spectrum you're on. It's how criminal you are is really what it comes down to. How criminal how many criminal ethics do you possess to allow you to participate in this gerrymandering process? It's absolutely insane. It should be zero. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I absolutely don't understand it.
The whole legal process, the whole voting process sometimes astounds me when you start looking at it.
She wants to advocate. Okay, so check this out. And this will kind of get us into the next bit here on Kamala Harris. Is a couple of days ago, she was at one of her own rallies, and she was literally pointing the finger at Trump and his failures at the border and saying how if she's elected, she's going to go clean up this mess. I almost died laughing. The hypocrisy of that statement. I lost it. I couldn't hold it in.
I mean, she's had 3 years to do anything positive as vice president, and she has been the border czar for.
Okay, she's
4
never
years.
been the border czar.
She's
never
the
been the border czar.
She was. Yeah, she was.
No. If you actually want to look at what
she was in charge.
Okay,
Biden put her in charge of it.
You have to stop clicking the pen. You're going to drive me crazy.
I'm sorry.
And everybody else is listening.
I know.
But she was not. She was put in charge of going into Latin America and figuring out what the root cause of Latin American immigration in the United States was. That was. I looked it up.
You're right. She was in charge of trying to figure out what the root causes of the border crisis was, which I don't know how else to say that she was in charge of the border crisis in this administration and figuring out how to mitigate and solve the border issues under this administration. She wasn't the czar. You're right. She was just in charge of the whole fucking thing.
No, she wasn't.
She was.
Okay.
She was.
Okay. All right. I will not argue with you.
You're right.
I think you're right. But it's kind of like this. All right. So let's just take a step back and use an analogy to help clarify the situation. If you're in a company, okay, just real quick, just work with me here.
Okay.
If you are at a company and you're a junior employee and and management asks you to go, hey, I need you for whatever reason, we'll just use the actual thing here. I need you to go into Latin America and figure out why all these people are coming illegally in the United States. You're going to do exactly that. You're going to go down and they're going to send you support and you're going to go into Latin America. You're going to identify root causes. You're going to come back to the Senate and the Congress and the American people and say, hey, these are the shit. These are the bad things happening in Latin America causing people to come into the United States. That's the junior employees. That's going to be the response. A very senior person is going to go down into Latin America, identify those problems, work with local leaders to get them addressed, come back to the border, give the Border Patrol and all the other agencies responsible for securing it all that information, realize how many more people as a result of these inefficiencies in Latin America are causing people to flood into the United States, how many more people that we could possibly expect, staff these Border Patrol agents accordingly, give them the money and resources they need to capture the new incoming flood, and then go to the American public, present your findings and the things that you did, and then ask for whatever much more money you need to address it holistically. I would imagine, as the vice president of the United States, you would be more on the professional, the senior end of that spectrum. What Kamala did was on the very, very junior side. She literally did the bare minimum to say that she actually did what Biden asked her to do.
I don't know. For me, like, I don't even know if she did the bare minimum. I understand what you're saying. It's like she went down there and she did, the new hires job for that department.
Yes.
But there's so many things that she could have done for that situation. That she could have shown some kind of an achievement for that situation. And maybe it's unfair to ask her to solve immigration, right, as the vice president. But, I mean, she is second in command.
How can
it not be the United States of America? Yes. That seems like a worthy task.
Yes.
That she didn't even try to handle in a professional manner in any way, shape, or form. So you can phrase it. Anybody can phrase it however they want. It was easily the worst handling of any job that anybody's ever done. Well.
If you graph out illegal immigration into the United States, and you just start at 2016. So start with Trump, because that's what we're comparing everything against. And you'll see just an increase, from Biden, and you'll see you see these. It's just increasing. It's just a steady increase of illegal immigration, and you can see it peaks in the summer, it dips to lows in the winter, but it continues to increase rather dramatically year after year. Again, we're only looking at Trump just simply because this is a Trump versus Kamala Harris conversation. And then Biden comes on board, and Biden's like, Kamala, go figure out what's happening in Latin America, and let's try and figure that out. What is really interesting is Biden specifically asked Kamala Harris to go look at this thing. And while illegal immigration coming from Mexico did start to dip down, illegal immigration from the countries she visited spiked dramatically through the roof, causing a brand new wave of illegal immigration, completely overwhelming our borders.
Yeah.
The exact opposite thing that Biden asked her to do actually started happening.
And I don't want to dive like super deep into this. This is its own episode, but we're seeing countries clear out their prison systems and send them over here. I mean, China, if they had prisoners to send over here that they didn't kill automatically. We're seeing Venezuela empty their prison systems out and send them up here. I mean, it is a horrible situation, and I'm really happy that I don't live in Texas or Arizona or Nevada, like all of those places. I can't imagine what they're dealing with the horrible immigration issues that they're dealing with.
Yep.
So
it's tough.
And it's not just, there because they're sending them all over the country, but specifically to the ones that they're moving through the border.
Right.
So
it is a big problem. But I'm just saying, as somebody who was, again, Jesse, liberal, Zac, conservative. So you'd imagine Jesse would have nothing but good things to say about Kamala Harris. But this was a bungle of epic proportions.
Yeah.
So, the border is a complete disaster. I'm a humanitarian. Zac's a humanitarian. We want to make sure that people aren't, just needlessly harmed. But what's happening is literally we're watching all these illegal immigrants make their way from wherever they're starting, getting to the United States, which is massively dangerous. Okay, so they have this perception that they can cross illegally, which is bad just to begin with, which Kamala actually stated. And so that journey is horrible, which we don't want people to undertake that journey because it could result in them being dead.
Environmentally, it's dangerous, but I mean, the fact that you're transitioning with a lot of criminals and a lot of people that are running without rule of law, there's a lot of drug and human trafficking issues with these migrations. I mean, it is not and I mean, unaccompanied minors are going through this. It is terrible, and it's not specifically a country of origin. It is the world is funneling through our southern border. I mean, it is. There is not a country that hasn't come through the southern border.
In the last for everybody who is unaware, a lot of people have the perception that it's predominantly Latin Americans and South Americans that are making their way through the border. That is not true. If you go down to these places, the major illegal immigration kind of like points where people like to cross over, you will see people just shedding their documentation. They'll leave their passports, identification cards, what have you. There's so many videos of people going down there and just kind of combing through the identity cards that are just laying on the ground. People from all over the world. Indonesia, the Philippines, India, China, right? All the way over to Africa, West Africa, South Africa, Botswana, really crazy places, all making their way, Middle East included, of course, Middle East is represented there, all making their way to the South, the border in the South. It's just nuts.
And I don't have the stat in front of me, but I want to say, more known terrorists have gotten through, or people that are on the terrorist watch list, however you want to phrase it, have gotten through our southern border under this administration than people in general got through under Trump's administration.
I think that you could probably, I don't have any stats to back that up, but
I might be.
Under this administration,
it's pretty bad.
The problem has gotten just dramatically worse. If you wanted to come to the United States, this is the time to make it. If you're listening to this and you're in some random country and you're like, you know what, I want to leave here and come to the United States, well, come over. The border's open. Nobody's going to stop you, but just beware. The cartel is probably going to demand between $2,000 and $10,000 based on your skills at diplomacy. Yeah. So just be aware. I don't recommend it, but if you do, just bring some cash and you'll be fine. Okay. So that kind of just basically wraps up her major the things that she did. Yeah, there is one more. Is she was pushing several initiatives to expand healthcare coverage, which was also it was met with bipartisan support. She tried to push for a new renewal of the assault weapons ban, enhance background checks. I'm not sure where you fall on the lines there, but that ultimately, again, it didn't go through. That's kind of wraps up her major accomplishments.
Yeah, I dove back into her history, to see where she came from. She graduated in 1989, passed her bar a year later on her second attempt. Because I was like, there's no way she failed her bar. Like everybody was saying, she failed one attempt at her bar, and then she joined the California bar a year later. But yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Nope, super common.
Yeah, and then she didn't really get her big start until she dated Willie Brown while he was separated from his wife. I got to make sure that that's clear because they weren't married, Willie and his ex-wife at the time, or separated wife. People get really butthurt about the fact that she got her start with a married man. It was not married; they were separated. So, distinction made. Where he got her a really sweet side gig on a couple boards, medical boards, that paid her $80K on the side, on top of her prosecutor salary. So she was making pretty good money while she was dating Willie. He went on to become the mayor of San Fran, and then they stopped dating in 1995, so about a year. And then she went on to work for the district attorney office in San Francisco. According to the news articles, USA Today, I think, it had no relations to Willie Brown that she got into the district attorney's office. So somewhere around 2003, I believe, she got elected to district attorney of San Francisco, where her conviction rate, or San Francisco's conviction rate, went from 52% to 67%. A huge spike of convictions. And a lot of people talk about how she was just throwing the book at people to get convictions, made her look good. Did not sit well with the community that she was throwing in jail for marijuana crimes, drug-related crimes.
Yeah, that spiked as well.
Yeah, huge.
Incarcerations due to specifically marijuana offenses.
Specifically marijuana. And then, fast forward 20 years later, she's joking about it.
Yeah.
On radio talk shows.
But San Francisco also saw, her district also saw a decrease in violent crime.
Oh, yeah.
As a result of that.
Yeah. And, I get the law and order aspect. I can't complain about that. If you're not doing anything wrong, it's nice to live in a place that's orderly, So maybe she was doing a good job. Maybe I would have loved San Francisco back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I visited. It was nice. I would not recommend it now.
I've been to San Francisco now. I don't really like it. Don't really like it anymore.
No.
I liked it back in, late 2000, early 2010s.
When were you in Petaluma?
07, 08.
Okay. I was there in 09. Yeah, 09.
Yeah, Petaluma was nice.
It was.
San Francisco was nice then.
Yeah.
Went down there a couple times.
I never, if you think about that, right? 10 years ago, we're in Petaluma visiting San Francisco, a couple times a week, or a couple times a month, I should say, right? It was what normally, well, my cadence anyway. It was nice. We'd go out there, hang out, all the friends, we go out and do the club thing, movie thing, whatever we're going to do. We'd go out there, and it was just great. Berkeley was awesome. Did not go into Compton, but the rest of the town was fine. Now you go down there, dude, homeless everywhere.
You got to stay out of the whole Tenderloin area at certain times of the day.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
We had briefings in 2014, 2015 when we would go down there, not to go into certain areas of San Francisco.
Right.
And it has gotten worse since then.
And it doesn't make any sense. It's literally one of the wealthiest. It used to, at least from a tech perspective, all these massive companies from Silicon Valley were born there. How much money is in that area? And yet this is happening.
They've got an awful homeless problem too. Awful.
The worst. Yeah.
But yeah, then she tried covering up a cocaine theft from a crime lab, which a technician that she knew back then was involved in the theft of the cocaine. It resulted in about 1,000 drug-related crimes being thrown out. 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, man, she's district attorney for San Francisco, and she's covering up cocaine theft. The inconsistencies in her character, even from her very beginnings, is terrible. Like, she just kind of does what she wants to do and expects everybody to just be okay with it. She is in public office. She's trying to run a job for the public, me and you, everybody else. And she just kind of runs around wild and does whatever she wants to do. And it doesn't sit with me. I really legitimately did go into this project trying to find something good about her. So I could be like, I did get rid of a bunch of the talking points that the right has. So that's good. I proved a lot of those as nothing burgers, which, that's good. The things that I didn't find appealing about her is that as soon as she joined the Senate in 2016, she just voted far left. There was no unifying message. She didn't try to do anything bipartisan, other than the one thing that you said she tried to do with, sorry, I was listening to you. I just forgot.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it seems like she flip-flops on everything all the time. She was very, 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 very much open borders in 2019 when she was running for president. She was very open borders. And now she's like, we got to close it down. I'm going to do something about this border that I've had the ability to do something about for the last 4 years, but haven't done. So
that's going to be her.
And it's the tip of the iceberg. That's the tip of the iceberg.
It's going to be her downfall.
It's almost every issue that she is currently talking about right now, she has flip-flopped on.
It's going to be an uphill race. If you even go back like 6 months, if you go back 9 months, she was doing an interview with, I think it was 60 Minutes. And they actually brought this up. This is 9 months ago. So well before anybody had, was watching. I mean, Biden was in cognitive decline 9 months ago. And so that's when basically people started, speaking up like, ooh, is Harris going to step in? Is she going to be the new VP? Things like that. And this was actually asked of her, like, hey, do you plan on stepping in? Because Biden may not be able to finish his term. And she's like, nah, that's never going to happen. We got a campaign to run. We have a re-election to run. And I can't remember who it was that was interviewing her, but it was basically like, speaking of running for re-election, Donald Trump has 71 convictions actively right now? And she's like, yeah, something like that. I can't keep track. The numbers so high.
Yeah.
Right. So why is it that your two campaigns are neck and neck? You're going up against a criminal, but yet you can't seem to get ahead. Why is that? And she's like, well, I'm not too interested in polling data. I was like, well, you should be.
Should be.
You don't seem to be doing too well. And that was his point.
It's your bread and butter,
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of bread and butter, her ethnicity. Everybody likes to pull into her ethnicity right now, right?
Yeah, I did
Jamaican, half
deep
Indian.
dive into her heritage just to see what was there. I spent way too long looking into her. There's nothing. I mean, obviously there's something. She's definitely Jamaican, and she's definitely Indian.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, one of her great grandmother's fathers or something like that was a slave owner. I mean, I think he actually founded Brownstown, as it's called now, in Jamaica. It was Hamilton Town at one point. I went way too far into her heritage, just to see. I was curious, and I do enjoy that kind of stuff. So
And here's the problem, though, is that she is absolutely in her right to claim either or at the
absolutely.
same time.
Uh,
But
the-
when
the-
Trump goes out and says, "Oh, you're just now coming out as black. You were Indian the other day. Now you're suddenly black. What's going on there?" It's only going to help her campaign, because now
I
she's going to
know.
be able to go to
I know.
the black community and say, "Hey, I am totally black. Look at my background. Look at what I look like and all the things that I've done. Right? I'm clearly that." And then she could do the exact same thing with the Indian community. And there's nothing wrong with it, because she absolutely represents both. So when Trump or anybody else goes and assaults her background, her heritage, her ethnicity, she's like, "What are you talking about? Look at all this. Look at all of this evidence over my 60 years of life of me interacting and being involved in these communities." And then she's just going to shut him down. It's going to be really bad.
Trump
I don't know why the right is doing this. It seems like a poor choice.
It is. Any kind of avenue where you're going down her heritage or her sex or gender, whatever you want to call it, is not the way to win with Kamala Harris. The only reason she's in the race is probably because of those reasons, because I can't find anything that's amazing about her political career. So just let her have her strengths and just leave it alone. But Trump is a world-class troll. He is. And it's one of my least favorite things about him, unless I'm just drinking beers and watching Trump. It's hilarious. But it's definitely not a winning strategy.
Well, tell your boy Vivek, because he was lambasting her the other day, basically accusing her of putting her Indian heritage aside and just focusing on the black. It's like, so Vivek, like this is wrong. You're not helping.
When Kamala was 7, her parents split, and neither one of her parents were naturalized citizens when she was born here in Oakland, California. I believe it was Oakland. And
Berkeley.
They want to make an issue about the fact that neither one of her parents were natural citizens of the United States when she was born. And that's a nothing burger as well. Her heritage and her sex or gender are nothing burgers. Just leave it alone. But the reason she has her Indian upbringing is because she lived with her mom when she was 7. Her dad wasn't there. And that's just what you got to do about it. So all of the pictures of her as a kid is her Indian, heritage. And that's just the way the world works. And they need to just move on from that. It's not a winning message. It's not a good message. It's not something that even needs to be in our political landscape. You literally just stick with the facts with her and be like, you've done absolutely nothing. I mean, JD Vance is doing a pretty good job of that.
She is literally the melting pot that everybody is talking about, which is, I mean, it's great. I'm glad that she has had the success that she has had in this country, because it really does exemplify what you can do regardless of where you come from. You just have to, you just have to dig deep. You have to find it within yourself to go and do the things you want to do. And so, I mean, in that respect, she's very respectable. But if Vivek and Vance, well, Vance hasn't done it, but if Trump tries to do it, especially if they end up debating, it's not going to go well. Not well at all.
Well, I mean, I think most everybody's pretty decided on the election, but I'm not saying that she can't win.
Okay, listen.
She totally could win.
She's
just got to get it close enough that
how
they can
is
fiddle with it.
I understand that she is the forerunner for the DNC. I totally understand why. She's the vice president. It's just super easy for that corporation to nominate her. But there is zero democratic process that got her there.
There was no democratic process, but I don't think that they were, through the campaign finance laws, able to transfer the money to anybody else.
Well, probably not. No. It could have only gone to Harris or Biden. I get all the reasons why a corporation would want to ensure Harris is the front runner. It makes their lives so much easier. But there's no democracy there. No democracy whatsoever. There's plenty of other Democratic people I would rather see up there. They're way stronger. The problems, as you'll probably attest to, is time.
Yeah.
They have no time to campaign, get familiar with the American people, get their message out there, right?
Could you imagine what it would look like if Kamala Harris was on the stage with, Josh Shapiro from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sorry.
Right.
Or Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer. It would be embarrassing to watch that. And that Harris has to win in that situation.
Yes.
And because that's where the money's at. You'd have to filter the money through all your grassroots donors again, like they've been doing. It's a terrible pain in the butt, I'm sure. So I can understand why they're doing this undemocratic process where they're just like, this is who we're going with, Sorry, American people. Sorry, Democratic voters. Sorry, whole Democratic Party. Kamala Harris is your person. That's just the way it is. You just have to deal with it.
Yep. No, it's true. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
And it feeds into our narrative that we're talking about the last podcast, that there's something very, very wrong with the fact that we're seeing Kamala here in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to kind of dig into this, let's just talk about her popularity.
It's terrible.
It's been historically terrible. Even the late night comedians who are crazy left leaning. Okay.
Yeah.
They're literally sucking Biden's toes at night. They are that far left to the left.
Yeah.
They are joking about how unpopular they were, I should say,
until not anymore.
J13.
Yeah.
Up until J13, they were literally joking about how unpopular she was, about how her approval ratings was like 30% or 28% or something like that at the worst. So that is where she came from. And if, as a matter of fact, I was actually looking this up. I was trying to find just the polls. And if you look at like 538, is a really great example. You could see going all the way back to 2021, basically, her approval rating actually starts off decently, 50% or so, which is fine. It's not bad. It's not great. It's whatever. It's 50%. But by 2022, it dips down into below 40. And then by the end of 2023, it's down to 30s, where it just continues to kind of be low to stay in this 30s. And then all of a sudden, J13, as she announces her candidacy, 12 days later or something like that.
Yeah.
The massive amount of ads and advertising campaigns go out across social media, local and international news, everywhere. Okay. And all of a sudden, because of this influence, her approval ratings start to spike. And I think she went from, mid 30s to where she's sitting at 40% right now, and just spiking straight up. So she's going to very, very, very quickly approach, that 50% mark out of nowhere for no reason other than media's influence.
Yeah. Honeymoon phase is what everybody's saying, it's thrilling to have somebody other than, Joe Biden as the front runner for the Democratic Party right now. But it's not sustainable, right? It's a short spike.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, they have to throw the buzz out there. They have to throw a party, but she's going to... Did you see her first unscripted conversation with the press? Yeah.
The one outside the plane?
Yeah. Where she just, fumbled that one hard.
Is that the same one where Biden just walked into the empty plane?
Yeah. So, and something I really want to highlight, is she keeps talking about how she spent almost every single day with Joe Biden, and she's basically told the American people there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. Everything's fine. Don't worry about Joe Biden. He's killing it. She's 100% lying straight to our faces about this stuff. How are we supposed to trust her when she's got this kind of attitude?
What is she? What is she? Let's be real. What is she supposed to say?
Well, I get it. I get it. you can't create division, but you're asking us to trust you with this job as president. You're asking us to trust who you are and what you're going to be able to accomplish for us. But you're propagating lies every single day that you tell the American people that Joe Biden's fine.
But it's more than just the American people. It's the Iranians and the Chinese and everybody else who wants to destroy our government. If they sense weakness, they're more likely to attack.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
Oh boy.
They already know that we're weak. They don't need to sense it. They can look anywhere and be like, what's he going to do? We went from a place of incredible stability and strength within the world at the end of Trump's first term. We were. I mean, he got nominated for like 9 Nobel Peace Prizes from 9 separate countries for his work throughout the world. And you're like, what? I've never even heard about that, Zach. I'll show you. Okay. He had this place in an incredibly stable situation. And now we have basically World War III just about it's on the horizon, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I just don't see huge conflicts throughout the Middle East and Ukraine, Russia, and possibly China and Taiwan, right? I don't see, any strength coming from this administration. I don't see any competency coming from this administration. And Harris is number 2 in this administration. So if Joe Biden isn't running the show because he's incompetent and she's been lying about it, then who has been running the show? Is it Harris? Has she been running the show for the last 3 years? Is it Jill Biden? We don't know 100%. But if you're number 2 of an organization and number 1 isn't able to run the situation, the organization, obviously number 2 has got to be running the organization, right?
Yes.
That's what common sense and logic fucking dictate. So
would only say
we're already seeing a Harris administration right now.
Yes.
And I don't like it. Do you like it?
No.
You like where we're at?
I am not advocating for
I know.
I'm not. Okay. I'm also not saying, okay, I don't want to even get into this, but okay. Let's just, I see what you're saying. Yes. Weakness is all over the place. What is your position in terms of what is the United States supposed to do in the Middle East? What is the United States supposed to do with Ukraine and Russia? What is our role?
Understand that if we're not there creating destabilizing pressures in the Middle East, then someone will create a union over there and they will prosper and maybe become a threat to the United States one day. I understand why we have traditionally been in the Middle East to disrupt any attempts from Russia or China or anybody else to solidify power over there to take the resources to grow. Because somebody will take the resources over there if it's not the United States. I get it. I understand the situation, but I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't know.
Yes,
my position is mixed. I don't know. I don't like our position. I understand 100%
after World War II were instrumental in ensuring all of a sudden there's this Jewish state in the middle of the Islamic world, right? You're the Christian community who are well read on this topic will say yes, that this is divine plan, and whoever backs Israel, is basically going to, see the seat in this. Will have a seat in the divine kingdom, right? So the whole point is like this is God's will. However, if we just take a more secular view, there, to your point, right? Israel is suddenly smack dab in the middle of like a place where nobody likes them. 7-Day War comes out. It's not a surprise to anybody. Where literally the entire area, tried to just kick Israel right out. And more importantly, it destabilizes the region. It gives us a landing ground. We can do all these operations covertly through Israeli forces or the IDF, right? They have one of the world's greatest intelligence forces, in Israel. So it totally makes sense why we want to keep that region destabilized. But if we go back though, what is our role though? Is our role to continue policing the planet, including the Middle East? Is that what we're trying to do here?
Um,
In your
from
opinion?
everything that I can see about how the United States moves, the United States government moves, it is through basically economic empire, controlling how the world works economically, and then through some force here and there. It has acted a lot like it owns the world that way.
Right.
It acts like an empire, like you saw the British Empire, the Roman empires, Ottoman empires. It acts the same way. And no matter how I vote or feel about the situation, it doesn't change the truth of the situation. So I'm not a big fan of it personally. Idealistically if everybody just got along and traded and had a good day, but I know that situation isn't feasible. It's just not going to happen.
Right, and so that's kind of it. Ultimately, that's my point. Is like, yes, the United States is seen as this force. I mean, NATO is a really perfect example of it. The UN is another, where we're kind of like the might of both of these organizations. We need to project power, whether it's true or not. And so there's no way Harris can't do that. She has to project power.
Yeah,
she can't project honesty. She has to project power. She has to. I wouldn't hold it against her. It would be the same thing if
she's doing a job. I get it.
If I was president and you were VP and I was struck with dementia, I would imagine you'd do the same thing. You'd be like, no, Jesse's great. He's just he's having a word salad moment. Don't even worry about it. He's been doing it his whole life. Don't worry. And then you just pray to God that I don't hit the red button. Right. Yeah. And you'd be literally batting my hand away from the red telephone, doing all the things. I think that's
drop the football. Drop the football.
Exactly. I think that's
I understand logically what she's doing. She is, making sure that the company moves forward. She's a company person. She's a company man. I get it. I don't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't make me like her. So just because I understand why she does something doesn't mean that I like it. So
right. All I'm saying is I wouldn't blame it on her. This is like you're going up against the administration.
She chose this job, Yeah. They didn't point a gun at her and say you're vice president now. Well, maybe they did. Maybe they did.
Up until J13, I would have agreed with you. Nobody put a gun to her head and said you have to run for president. After J13, somebody might have put a gun to her head and said you have to run for president.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, take this pill. Then you're going to take it for the rest of your presidency.
Every day you have to take this pill. Otherwise, the first pill you took, you're out.
Right. Yeah. It's okay. Let's see. Is there anything else here? So we talked about the border. The border. I wish I could share my screen here, but there's a great picture, just largely of just the inconsistencies in illegal border crossings at the very. I'm not sure what happened, but basically right at the very end of Trump's presidency. If you look at January 6th, right, the illegal border crossings were let's see, from all other countries across the planet approaching zero. Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, where Harris went to, that also reached its lowest point ever. And Mexico was also bottoming out. Like all three of these places, all these people coming from these origin destinations were approaching zero, which is crazy. Really, really good, right? And then Biden comes along, tags Kamala, and then you just watch these numbers break new records, break brand new records.
It's like every month they were competing with themselves to see how many people they could get across the border.
Yep.
It's astounding. I mean, it's something like 11 million through.
That's,
It's not just the southern border. I mean, that's immigration in total, I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah, that's
Greater
total.
than 11 million. I think the southern border was still only like 8 or 9 million people across the southern border.
Yeah.
But regardless, you know, it is a pretty astounding number when you look at it.
Hundreds of thousands of people a month were coming across the border under her
And
watch.
then they have like the audacity to freaking try to put out some legislation where they're like, oh no, we're going to cap it at 12,000, you know, a month, or
What does that even mean?
12,000 a day immigration. You know,
It
only
does,
12,000 people can come across the border
yeah.
a day or a month. I think
I
it was a
don't
day.
understand.
It was something stupid.
Yeah. And
I got to
I
look
get,
that number up now.
look it up. While you're looking it up, the thing that's interesting is we have a very, very big border. We at least at the drop of a hat, we can't just go and fix this problem. You're talking about addressing issues systemically across, you know, agencies that are patrolling the border, the physical security of the border itself, and the reasons why people are flooding into the United States in the first place. If we had harsher rules on illegal immigration, so say you do make it in the United States, I believe if you make it, you're good to go. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's not a whole lot that's going to get you evicted, right?
No.
As long as you come in and somebody finds you illegal, you say, yeah, I'm fleeing, you know, some shithole. And they're going to be like, yeah, that place is pretty bad. Yeah, we'll set you up with a court date in 5 years. Be there.
Sometimes it's 7 to 9 years.
As long as you don't get arrested for something and you have that little piece of paper saying that you have a court case coming up,
arrested multiple times and you don't do something really, really heinous.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. You can be speeding. You can be doing all sorts of things. The other problem, though, is that these people are also getting welfare. They're getting access to, you know, healthcare programs and all these community programs.
In hotels.
All of this stuff is happening, and you're like that money. Okay. First of all, it's not that I don't want these people to suffer. I don't want them to suffer.
Yeah.
But while we still have citizens suffering, American citizens suffering on the streets, fighting homelessness, you know, mental illness, veterans with PTSD who just can't get their lives together. While those are still a problem, they have to be our focus. We have to take care of our own. We have to put on our own mask before the person next to us. We absolutely have to.
I like the thought process that if your house is on fire, you can't really invite anybody to stay. You know, like,
yeah.
You got to be able to do anything from a position of strength. Like, if you don't have money in the budget to donate, you don't have any money in the budget to donate. You got to be able to make sure that your household is being taken care of first. You really do.
Right.
And then you can give out of the kindness of your heart to make everything else better. But if you don't have that, then you got to fix it first, right? You got to get everything. You got to get your household in order first. So
absolutely. And this, so I guess it comes back to this. You know, we were talking yesterday about why you should or should not vote for Kamala Harris as the president, and largely there were so many inconsistencies with the J13 day, with that assassination attempt, that it looks like somebody internally, three-letter agency, is likely working to remove Trump from the presidential run. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that same agency is actively promoting Harris to get elected. So there's some shadowy shit happening there that, you know, yeah, if you don't want America run by the shadowy hand of the intelligence communities, you vote for Biden. That was our argument yesterday. Today, our argument is, well, at least I think the one that we're really talking about is, if you are looking for better border patrol, if you're looking for a healthier border, the numbers clearly demonstrate that Trump's initiatives, his programs, were working.
Yeah.
We were hitting record lows for illegal immigration, and those numbers immediately spiked when the new administration came into power. Immediately. And this is the numbers I'm looking at are coming from very just neutral sources, right? AP and Reuters is what I'm looking at right here. So we're not talking about organizations that are typically left or right. They're very central. They're just trying to report on statistics that came straight from the agencies that manage the border, and they're just reporting those numbers. So there's no spin here. Trump's border was way more secure with less illegal immigration than Biden's. And the person who was supposed to be handling this under Biden was Kamala Harris.
Yeah, you don't need to give her a special title for that. That's what her job was, So deny it however you want. I distinctly remember Biden handing that responsibility off to her. So, and she did the bare minimum, and it shows. So she might have even done worse than the bare minimum. We don't know.
Somehow she did. Clearly, I mean, this is not even. It's not even a question. It got way worse. A problem that was almost under control exploded.
It was almost like a hold my beer. Let's see how high we can get these numbers.
Yes. Well, she won. She won the illegal
Wolf
immigration
Olympics. Wall Street. Those are rookie numbers. Let me show you what's up.
We got the gold. We have the gold. Don't worry about it. we win. The United States wins. We're the record holder. Thank you, Kamala.
Hooray!
Yes. I mean, for what it's worth, it is on its way back down. So if I'm looking at these charts, these numbers are on the way back down.
Well, I think in the summer months, it's always down. It's too.
No. It's the other way around.
Really? I thought in the spring and the fall they were up. Wintertime was like, Summertime was yeah. Basically, yeah. The late spring. Late spring is definitely the spikes. And if I'm paying $10,000 a month, I'm not going in July and August.
You can't. You literally can't. I mean, so in any case, it doesn't matter. These numbers are on the way back down. They are still really bad. They're still not good. But regardless, the damage has been done.
And even if, the known gotaways, because a significant amount of people have been slipping through and not getting any kind of documentation, no court dates, no nothing. They're not getting recorded on the numbers. It's something like double the amount of people that have come into the country. So, I mean, even if the number across the southern border is 8 million, we're looking at possibly 16 million,
Right.
And of that amount of people, you can only assume that the people that are actively trying to evade enforcement are probably bad actors, people that we do not want here.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit terrifying, to see that.
It's collapsing healthcare.
Yeah.
So there are these towns in the South, right, where legitimate American citizens are going to seek care at a hospital. And they show up
another city or whatever.
And they can't get the healthcare they need because the emergency room is filled with illegal immigrants.
Yeah, school systems, everything.
I don't want these people to hurt. I want them to get the health care they need. However, it can't come at the cost of our own health care.
Yeah.
Like, we have to take care of our own first. That's just the way this works. We are a great country. I have no doubts that we will be able to come up with a system that will be able to take care of these people. But we are not doing the right thing today. We're just making it worse for Americans. It needs to be addressed from the bottom up. And like you said, we have all these people that are now in the United States. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. It's not a good situation for sure. I mean, I think that the current administration or the current immigration system, they've got something, they allow up to 2 million people annually to come in to the country. I'm sure the process is incredibly slow. I believe both of my brother's spouses went through the situation, the system for that, and it was incredibly slow. But the infrastructure needs to be in place before you expand. It has to be, otherwise you run into incredible growing pains. So, I mean, just even looking at the, to get away from this situation for a second, the freeway system here in Boise, it's awful, and we've expanded our population double almost in the last 4 years here. And it's hard to drive around at peak times. So just imagine how awful trying to find a doctor or anything like that, find a school system in these places that are completely overrun. I mean, that's nightmare stuff right there.
It's tough. Yeah. And what are we going to do about it? I mean, if we can't solve the problem today with our current ecosystem, the current infrastructure that we have, then how can we allow the system to continue? Something has to stop. Something has to stop because we have to repair the damage we've done already. Otherwise, we just continue the bleeding and we just,
it just gets worse.
We just lacerate an existing wound.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate situation. If Trump is elected president, he's got a lot of work to do. He's got to find somebody. He's got to find an immigration czar who is going to have to come down with the hammer. There's just no other way around it.
I mean, he's already said he's going to be the number one deporter in chief, Yeah. He might even take Obama's crown for that one.
Here's the problem though, is we don't have the infrastructure to find these guys. Like he would be asking local law enforcement to go around and do this. A lot of laws don't exist to support. So I don't think today you could pull somebody over because you think they are an illegal immigrant. That's not a thing.
Stop and frisk everywhere in the United States only for papers.
That's not a thing. Yeah. So you're talking about you have to build support for the work that you're going to do, and it's not easy. That's why he just needs somebody. He needs somebody that's going to be kind of ruthless. That's just going to come in here and not give a fuck and be like, sorry.
I think the guy that he's going to pick for that job is Tom Holman. Love him, hate him. He's actually pretty well-spoken dude. He's all over congressional hearings, Yeah. Watching him and AOC go at it is awesome some days.
Yeah. So, and
he's a no-nonsense type of guy.
I actually don't know him that well.
Yeah, you should watch some of his.
I have. I just don't know his politics. Yeah. I don't know his positions other than what I see that make X and these other social media platforms.
From what I can see, he's a pretty even-keeled dude. Fair, Yeah. Wants to just uphold a good system. Yeah. That isn't there anymore. So
let me ask you this. So we're talking about this potential, kind of like shadowy force that's clearly trying to remove Trump by whatever means possible.
Yeah.
The same force trying to push in Kamala.
Yeah.
We know Kamala has just the worst track record. I should say the Biden administration, of which she is a prominent member, has the worst track record for immigration.
Yeah.
We could get into this. This is actually a whole nother podcast, but what is the purpose? What is the design to leave our borders so exposed?
So from what I can tell, right, multiple avenues, but they enjoy bringing a lot of people in so that they can register them to vote and get voters. I think that's the primary goal. If you look at everything here, they have a guaranteed voter base and their children will vote for them. And it's just going to be the Democratic Party created a better life for me and my family. Every generation will vote Democrat for 4 generations.
We're going to do we're going to do at least a segment of upcoming podcast on the voter manipulation.
Yeah.
They didn't need bodies for that. I'm guessing the argument you're going to make doesn't rely on souls. You don't need thumbprints on paper to do what
most states. You only need a driver's license to vote, and you don't need to be an American citizen to get a driver's license. So.
Right, but isn't some of the point that there was just a whole bunch of ballots that were fabricated and a whole bunch that were like
there have been a lot of documented cases, and it's gone through the court systems, and we can bring it all up, where they found more people in Arizona that voted than lived there. There was like 170,000 people that voted in one county, and only 138,000 people lived there.
Right.
And you're like, how did you get an extra 50,000 people or 40,000 people on the voting rolls? And so there's a lot, and we can go through each state and do a whole podcast about, that, for all I care. I mean, there's a lot that we can go through. So there is an incredible amount of election interference, because I was looking up like the definition of it earlier, and it's just like buy, trade, do something that's illicit, for votes. So it'll be pretty interesting to dive into, the manipulation of the system for all of this. I find it fascinating, even though it pisses me the fuck off.
Send me over everything you got, because I need to dig into it, because I'm starting tabula rasa. Basically, up until J13, I would have given you middle finger and said, hey, stop sipping on that QAnon teat.
Yeah.
And move right along with me. I would not have paid you any attention.
So my text messages also show that is a accurate statement for the last 6 years.
Yes. Okay. So send me what you got. I'm gonna dig into it. I have actually done some digging on the border crisis. So I'll bring this up the next time as well. So I think for our next talk, let's dig into the fraud, the election fraud 2020.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the border in more detail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sound like a plan?
It sounds like a plan. It's a good plan for next time. I want to dig into, everything election interference. I'm talking Steele dossier, all of that stuff. We might have to break that up into just the 2 podcasts for next week.
We can. We can.
Because there's a lot. There is. I'm
going to blow your mind with the border crisis, by the way. I've actually put a lot of thought into this. And it is harrowing. It is scary. And I'll also bring up, I'm not sure if you're tracking this, but why are billionaires moving to Florida and Texas? Why Florida and Texas? Specifically.
Tax laws, man.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot more reasons. I will dig into all of that.
I'm going to love every second of that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
When New York, because I remember during COVID, Governor Cuomo, right?
Yep.
He was begging the rich to come back to New York because everybody fled because of the taxes and the tax laws.
The state is bankrupt. Or sorry,
out of control. Yeah, they were showing like $5 billion in losses annually because something like 85% of the taxes was paid by the top 1% of wage earners in the state of New York. 85%, something like that. It was ridiculous. And then if you have all those rich people moving to Tennessee and Florida and Texas because they're absolutely sick and tired of being taxed that way, all of that goes down to the next 10% of wage earners who are now paying 90% of the taxes, and they're going to leave. And then you're just going to end up with the 60 or 70% of poor people there that had all of these benefits living under rich people not being able to afford it anymore. And it's going to be an awful place to live.
New York City is in a hard place.
Yeah.
They do not, the amount of money that they collect in taxation is not enough to run the city.
Yeah.
And so they continually borrow and borrow and borrow to fill those gaps. They're now at a point where they'll never be able to pay off that debt, the city itself nor the state. So something has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they can't go bankrupt, They can't go bankrupt. Same with
they
Cali.
totally can. They could totally go bankrupt. That city could go ass up overnight, and it would be crazy. It could totally happen, though. It's just a wing and a prayer that they're still hanging on.
Yeah. I don't know. That'll be definitely another podcast.
Yeah. I have a list. I have a list going.
Good.
Oh, good times. All right, man. You got anything else to round out our expose on Kamala Harris?
No, it actually really made me sad reading about, like, diving into her past, and I was like, man, there's nothing inspirational about this, so.
I mean, there is. That's the one thing, is that somebody with her background and her diversity managed to get to where she is today. She's literally there's a flip of a coin whether or not she makes it to the presidency.
Her
So
side
there is
gig,
something.
her side gig in the 90s is making more than my primary gig right now.
Yes, you're an honest individual. You're
You
not
know.
working in politics.
So I don't know how much adversity she's faced.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. A female of color, man. Like,
Oh, yeah,
you just, I mean, you know that it was not easy going in this country.
Yeah.
This country
I mean,
is
she
awfully
did
racist.
She did have to date Willie Brown to get her start. So that is adversity. I think he's like 30 or 40 years older than she is.
40? Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. All right. I say we leave it there.
All right, buddy.
On that, as they would say in Top Gear, on that bombshell, I'll leave it to another day. All right, Zach, you have a good one, sir.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Till next time. See everybody.